Welcome to the Creepin' It Real Show, your one-stop shop for weird news, movie reviews, otherworldly, and paranormal shenanigans. We'll take a dive into what's going on in creepy pop culture. You can follow Creepin' It Real Show on Twitter at creepin_it. You can email us at creepinitrealshow@gmail.com. You can also go to our website, creepinitshow.com. Welcome to Creepin' It Real. I'm one of your hosts, Yardley, getting ready to close out 2018. This year's gone by pretty fast, but before we start diving into some tidbits to close out the year, I want to bring in my host from the great state of California. We have Moni. How's it going?
Hey, Yardley and Creepers. I am excited to be here. Full disclosure, I just set a small fire in my microwave, as one will do. I was trying to warm up some coffee before the show, and I had a sparkly cup. And quite frankly, that was a bad decision. Yeah, I haven't done that since I was in my 20s, so not the first time, hopefully the last time, but you never know. Hot off of completely nerding out last night playing Dungeons and Dragons with a group of friends. So we went to bed at midnight. My kid had me up at 5. I'm running on fumes. I needed that damn coffee, but I'm excited and ready to do this show.
You know what? That's good. I saw a couple of your photos about the D&D games, so those onesies we're definitely working.
Yes, we are the pajama crew. We come late at night and we do it all in our jammies at my house. So,
hey, you know what? That's what's up. What's going on up north there, Christy?
Hey, a little sleep deprived, but happy to be here. I'm just on the weekends. I am one of those people that gotta have the sleep and didn't get it, but that's okay. I'm excited. Another show in the books. One going to be posted hopefully later today, now that I've gotten my crash course in how to work this fucking software that I got. And everything else is doing great. I'm old. I have a 16-year-old now, and she's about to start driving my ass around, so I'm kind of excited about that. Because that was the whole point of having kids, is to make them slaves. So I'm stoked.
I bet you can get a nap today too. That's one nice thing about the kids being older, is you can actually be left alone maybe for 5 minutes. That'd be cool.
Totally. Yeah, they get left alone all the time. They don't give a shit about me anymore. They're up in their room with their phones or talking to their boyfriends or whatever the hell that they do. I don't even want to know anymore. As long as I know where they are and I know there's no weapons in the house, I'm okay with them just doing their thing.
Nice.
Well, congratulations
Here another year.
to you both. Yeah, it sounded like it might work out for both parties, hopefully.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Let's go ahead and dive into some weird news, and then after that, we are going to talk our top 3 horror movies or TV shows that we've seen in 2018. So I'm going to go ahead and kick things off. My weird news is about an Irish woman who married the ghost of a pirate. She's actually going to be getting divorced to this ghost. So let me give you a little bit of a story here. So a 46-year-old woman in Ireland says she's splitting from her husband, who's about 300 years old, and was executed for piracy in the 1700s. So the Irish Mirror reported that Amanda Sparrow Large Teague, who made global headlines last year for marrying the spirit of a 300-year-old Haitian pirate, is divorcing the pirate after less than a year. So the Mirror reported that Large posted to social media, "She will explain all in due course. For now, all she wants to say is to be very careful when dabbling in spirituality." It's not.
I don't need an explanation. She's straight crazy.
Yeah, it's not something to mess with. So
the hell you say?
Had did a profile on Teague earlier this year in January after she married the ghost of Jack Teague, who she said was a Haitian pirate who was executed for piracy hundreds of years ago. So Newsweek said that their spiritual relationship developed 3 years ago when she sensed his presence while lying in bed in Drogheda, Ireland. Well, Teague eventually told Newsweek that she sailed into the international waters to legally marry, and that she's the first person in the UK and Ireland to marry a ghost, but the legal part is pretty questionable. Now, if you think that this is crazy, apparently the dead pirate wasn't Teague's first pirate love. Newsweek also reported that around the time the two met in 2015, Teague was working as a female Jack Sparrow impersonator after becoming infatuated with the Pirates of Caribbean movie franchise. So Snopes dug into the legality of Teague's marriage and reported that her marriage to a 300-year-old dead pirate doesn't have any legal status where she lives.
What?
Yeah, Snopes, Snopes be
Poor
getting in
Snopes.
everybody's shit.
Not all
Uh,
heroes wear capes.
So Snopes said that Teague is fully entitled to consider herself to be married, but legally the claim is false. And they also said that they couldn't verify Jack Teague's existence, but according to Teague, he was hanged in 1753 after being caught helping slaves escape from being traded. Now, in Teague's mind, she's a Jack Sparrow impersonator, but in her mind, this Haitian pirate looks like Jack Sparrow. Now, we already know where that's off the rails, you
He
know.
looks like Johnny Depp. If you can't find your own in real life, make up one.
Yeah, make up a Haitian Johnny Depp. Yeah, that really works out. But this is an interesting story because earlier in the week, when I first discovered that this whole marriage thing had actually happened, I guess a year ago, Kente, one of my co-hosts for Indie Radio, had posted that they had gotten a divorce, literally last week. So I thought that was interesting, and it also goes to show you, I don't know if this woman is just looking for attention or if she's that lonely, but these are the types of stories that should be in the "you can't make this up" category, and I just don't know. I mean, how do y'all feel about this? Are these just people looking for attention? Are they that isolated? I mean, what's going on?
I'm just laughing because the photo of the wedding, they're on the boat, and one of her friends is just giving this knowing kind of grin. And I'm sure it's just out of context, but she kind of looks like she's batshit, but we support her and we love her. So here we are. And then she calls him her soulmate, which just makes me laugh because pun totally intended. The dead guy is your soulmate. But I think, I don't know, without seeing anything, if I saw her on social media, a video of her, I might have some better idea if she's serious about herself or not. But just judging from the still photos, I mean, this is a full on wedding. There's dresses and bridesmaids. Yeah. She did it up. This wasn't free. Let's put it that way. I don't know, man. She went the extra mile.
Well, Christy, from a family or friend standpoint, do you even co-sign this to even go along with it if you knew somebody who was trying to do this?
Well, as somebody who has a couple of mentally insane people in their family, no, I personally, and look, you know me, I believe in some pretty interesting shit, but marrying a 300-year-old pirate ghost is where I draw the line. So I would have to be let's get you some pills and maybe some therapy and take that money that you're getting paid for with all these, magazines you're talking to and get you some help, lady, because I don't believe in 300-year-old sugar daddies. I just don't. So
that look like Johnny Depp.
Yeah, exactly.
I just took a mental health training class, by the way, and you're supposed to yeah, of course I did, but
you need to.
You're right, Christy. When you see, yeah, I do for myself.
Yeah. No, for your work.
I'm just
for all the shit you deal with.
But one of the things they do tell you is if someone's that guy over there is threatening me and there's no one there, you're not supposed to buy into it and be oh yeah, I'm sorry that you're supposed to kind of be well, I don't see him right now. But trying to redirect, but you're not supposed to stoke the flames by saying yeah, let's marry the thing that nobody else sees. And this is all wrong. Her friends are enabling her, and this needs to stop, is what I'm saying. But we all want to marry Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
It didn't go a lot into, of course, all of the reasons why she decided to get divorced. But I was like, damn, a dude can't even get a break when we're dead. You know what I'm saying? What the hell is going on with that? But even though that's an interesting story, I think the one that you have, Moni, about a woman who allegedly killed and cooked her lover was being caught.
I mean, don't you hate it when this happens, when your lover, when you have to kill them? I mean, sometimes it just has to happen. And then you get felled by someone finding a tooth in your blender. So this is so many pop-up ads. Sorry, guys. So a woman in United Arab Emirates has been arrested and accused of killing and cooking her lover of 7 years, then serving his remains to a group of unsuspecting workers near her home. That's fucked up too, by the way. You're like, hey, hardworking construction people, do you want something to eat? Here's some nice food. And they're like, whoa, she's such a nice lady. And you're like feeding them some humans, so they're complicit in all this. But her name has not been disclosed. She's under investigation. I would think so. After the alleged murder, after a tooth was discovered in her blender. Police believe the murder took place 3 months ago, but was only recently discovered after the missing lover's family raised concerns. Initially, she denied any involvement in his disappearance, and according to police, however, after questioning, she admitted she killed him in a moment of insanity and that she wanted revenge for being dumped. Well, see, that's what I mean. Sometimes you just have to kill someone. The unidentified man, who also hailed from Morocco, reportedly told her that he planned to marry another woman. Oh, after 7 years, that does sting.
Ouch.
I'm not sure if it's put him in the blender sting, but, you know, despite the accused having helped support him financially. Oh, I bet you the person he was going to marry was younger. Are we taking bets on that?
Oh, totally. She was getting traded in for a new model.
Oh, the worst. I would help you kill him, girl, but not eat him. Let's
not eat him. Come on now.
She confessed to using a blender to mince his flesh after she killed him. She then cooked his remains into machbouz, a traditional dish of rice and meat, before serving them to a group of Pakistani workers. See, that's the part.
Oh, that's wrong.
Yeah, I'm with you till that part, girl. That wasn't the right thing to do. So,
Moni's morals. They're having Moni's morals corner hour here for Creeping It Real.
The brother said that she told him that she had kicked him out of her home, but the brother found the tooth in the blender and reported that to authorities. And tests showed the DNA matched the missing lover. So there you go.
I mean, how do you not clean out the blender after doing that? Like,
just a little rinse, girl. You would have been home free.
Yeah, exactly. She was just over it. Yeah, I agree with you, Moni, though. That's a little bit over the top. I do agree the woman probably was younger, but regardless, I don't know. It almost seems like she was probably a little bit more pissed off at the fact that she was the sole breadwinner and she pretty much supported him as well. But I don't know if that's enough to catch a charge over.
Yeah.
I mean, I can totally understand the rage of being traded in for a new model. But feeding human flesh to strangers or workers is just not a good idea on any capacity. Like, you've like scarred these people for life now. Like, you know, if you want to do some crazy shit, that's cool, but don't like spread your love and crazy off to other people. So just keep it in your inner circle. Keep it in, you know, the boundaries.
We're so excited to eat, I bet you. They're like, oh, she made us like a home cooked meal, you know?
How kind of her. Oh, hey, by the way, it was a dude. Oh, God.
Well, I guess the only upside from this article is it actually, at the bottom of this article by Newsweek, it brings up that this tale resembled a similar one that happened in the United States back in 2014. A Michigan resident, Kelly Cochran, reportedly killed her former lover with the help of her husband. They injected him with a lethal dose of heroin, and the couple believed to have chopped him up and served him to friends during a barbecue back in 2014. Now, the woman admitted in court that she and her husband had committed the crime. The neighbors alleged that they believed that they had been served the remains at a gathering. So apparently, Investigation Discovery released a documentary titled Dead North about this grisly case back in May. And it actually has inspired me to want to kind of watch this documentary about what was going on. So I think that that's dope. And you know what? That has potential to be something that we talk about on the show.
Nice.
So we can definitely revisit this. Now, with 2018 coming to a close, I figured that it would be fun if all of us listed our top 3 horror or movie shows that we have seen in 2018. Now, I'm going to go ahead and lead the jump off before getting into us reviewing Delirium. But for me, my top 3, and these are for me the things that stick out the most, and one of these picks of mine is something that, hey, maybe a lot of people didn't like, but this was something that I came in with very low expectations and was actually pleasantly surprised. So I'm going to start off with Hereditary. As my number 1, it's a movie. I really did feel this movie. There wasn't nothing about it that I didn't dislike. I didn't think it was too long. I thought that the content and how they closed it out was pretty good. And, you know, I just have to admit, like, whenever I drop some money, especially on a horror movie, I don't really expect a lot of good returns. But I actually left Hereditary. It felt like I had really consumed something that I could enjoy in the future. I ended up buying it as well. So I've got that in my collection. I'm going to throw in Haunting of Hill House as one of my top 3. That was a real good series that has a huge bandwagon now. Definitely something that's rewatchable because I'm pretty sure that people will pick up a lot of things that they didn't the first couple of times that they go through it. And third, I'm going to say Truth or Dare. It was actually a movie I thought was going to be really garbage. I thought that it suffered by being PG-13, but I actually enjoyed it way more than I thought that I would. And I pretty much left the theater with that movie with the same rating as I gave Halloween. I gave Halloween a 7 out of 10. I also gave Truth or Dare 7 out of 10 on the show. I do consider that high for a horror movie, but I enjoyed that. And I actually wanted more. I just wish that they would have had a little bit more money and it would have had an R rating. I thought that it would have, I think it's a sleeper, but for me, I think for 2018 that those are the ones that kind of touched me a little bit more than others. So I'm very curious to hear what Christy's picks are for 2018.
Well, you know what? I'm bummed it with myself because I was thinking movies and not shows, but I have to agree with you. Haunting of Hill House definitely was a top contender this year for shows. In general, shows, I think it's up there with Game of Thrones and all my favorites like Empire. Now I can't think of the name. Boardwalk Empire and 6 Feet Under. I just thought it was brilliantly written. I was so surprised because of all the stupid movies that came from that name, and they freaking pulled it all out. So I was super excited and impressed. I've turned all these people on to it, and they were not disappointed either. Especially after that 5th episode, you're just like, holy shit, you know. The Crooked Neck Lady episode, episode 5's famous for that. So I agree with you on that one. I didn't put it in my list, but when you said it, I was like, oh shit, yeah. Definitely Hereditary. Good God, that movie freaked me the fuck out. It was, to me, brilliant. Brilliantly written. It was just blew my wig back. I was completely shocked for like a day. Just what the fuck was that? What the fuck did I just watch? What the fuck was that? And Terrified is in the same category. Oh my gosh. Again, I have to say those two for me are tied first place and go down in the top 5 horror, my favorite, most scary horror to me all time. Like, I thought they were amazing. I've never had 2 amazing movies in 1 year. So it's been a great year for me for horror. And the crazy part is that I had just, when I saw your assignment, Yardley, you had texted us and said, hey, by the way, this is what we're going to talk about. So I got on my computer and I just searched 2018 horror. There is a ton of horror that came up that I either A, forgot, or B, had never heard of. So I got a whole list of shit I'm going to try to knock out this next week and maybe do some Patreon reviews on those. One of them is The Predator, which got surprisingly good reviews. So I love the Predator series. It got stupid at the end, so I'm going to try to catch that. But And then, of course, my last pick is A Quiet Place. I really liked that movie because of its originality. The concept was pretty cool. It had a lot of jump scares, but of course, because it's completely silent, so anything that's happening is going to scare the shit out of you. So, acting was fantastic. The concept was wonderful. I'm looking forward to the sequel, and yeah, so that rounds out my top picks for this year.
Quiet Place on my list. Like everything Christy said, it had some good jump scares. It was a different kind of concept. Looking forward to the sequel. Terrified. Christy mentioned it, but I don't think you clarified that it was a Shudder exclusive.
Yeah.
And it is subtitles. So that's one. My husband hasn't seen it. That's one that I'd like to watch with him and watch again because
why? So he can ruin it for you? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, basically. So he can shit all over it.
How could you shit over that movie? And by the way, there is a version on Shudder that is dubbed. So
nice.
It's English talking over. And that drives me crazy.
Weird,
I'd almost rather just read it, but some people prefer it. But that is an option.
There might be subtext kind of like in the original.
Yeah.
In the original language. But that one, guys, check that out if you want your life ruined.
Oh my God.
I mean that in the best possible way when you're into horror films.
That movie freaked me the fuck out. The kid at the table. I was like, oh hell no! Like that was crazy.
Lengthy, so I'm like waiting for something else to happen with him, and I'm just like, oh my God!
Oh man, you don't mess with dead kids. That was just they went there. Holy shit! Yardley, if you have not seen that movie, you have to watch it.
Get a 30-day trial of Shudder and watch that movie. Best $5 ever if you do end up paying.
It's worth $5 just to watch that one movie. Absolutely.
There's a new Shudder movie that I want to see. I haven't watched yet. It's called All the Creatures Were Stirring, and it's supposed to be a Christmas horror.
I tried to get into it, and I couldn't do it. But
too bad.
I don't think I was in the mind frame. I knew, because I saw it on there, and I was like, okay, well, I mean, there's a lot of complaints about it on IMDb, but that happens because they're all a bunch of they think they're all wannabe, movie reviewers. But I started to try to get into it, and it just looked so cheap. It was like a movie theater, but you could tell it was like an old house. It was just weird. So I was kind of like, I'm not in for it right now. Like, I can do my stretch of imagination for only so long, and I just wasn't feeling it that day. So I was like,
unfortunate.
I'm not going to force
Christmas
it.
Horror films,
I do too.
So
They're usually there's that one that has the anthology. What was that? The Christmas Silent Night. I don't know. That's not
it. Silent Night or Black Christmas.
Black Christmas. That's the one I was thinking.
Slasher. Yeah. So let's see. When I found out that we were doing TV shows too, Haunting of Hill House is one of my favorite shows ever. I agree with Christy. It's right up there with like Game of Thrones or other things that you love because it has beautiful people. It has the drama. It has obviously the scares. It's well written. It's something that you could watch again and see different things. I'm in for that. I wanted to give honorable mention. One of the things that I do on our Patreon every week is talk about things that I'm watching and reading and listening to for that week. And I do just want to give honorable mention to things that if you're into horror that you can see that are worth watching, in my opinion, including the Purge TV show on USA Network. That's pretty worth watching, pretty good. And it's a series, so it's something you can put on easy and just watch like one episode and go to bed or whatever. Delirium, which we're going to talk about in a minute. Yardley mentioned Cam. It's not particularly scary, but it's super weird and it kind of sticks with you, and it's hot chicks in their underwear. So go for that.
Can't go wrong with that one. Yeah. Hot chicks playing in bubbles, hot chicks playing together.
They're doing a lot of things.
Yeah. Lots of hot chicks, lots of naughtiness, and then a badass chick in the middle of it who doesn't like to be fucked with, apparently. So that was pretty good. Yeah.
That is good.
Smart.
Apostle is one that
seen that.
Stars Matthew, the adorable guy from Downton Abbey, but he's badass in Apostle, so check that out.
He's
it's pretty
not a
gory,
dick.
but it's pretty good. And I wanted to mention on Shudder, Stephen Yeun's Mayhem. That one is really worth watching, and again, for the price of your Shudder, $5 a month, and it's got some good production value. And I would watch it if I was you. I might watch it again. And Truth or Dare, I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite of the year, but I'm with Yardley. And I saw that he put it on here. I remembered watching it, and it is. It's for what it is. It is well done. It definitely could have been rated R. It's Also, just, my pet peeve is always you've got people swearing, people having sex, people stabbing each other in the eyeballs, but because they're not saying fuck more than once in the film, then it can be rated PG-13. It's just like so weird, but whatever. It is a well done movie. It's Blumhouse, which we have always had good luck with. So those are the recommendations. But as far as the top three, Haunting of Hill House, Terrified, and probably Quiet Place would be the top that I remember seeing this year.
I know Moni will disagree with me, but I would have to say an honorable mention is Summer of '84. I really liked that movie. And a really fucked up movie is Revenge. It's on, those both are both on Shudder, but you might be able to find them somewhere else. I'm in the middle of watching The Clove Hitch Killer, and so far I had to turn it off because I had a phone call, which I will talk about in just a minute, that ended up lasting for 4 hours. But so far, so good. It's got, what's his name? Dermot Mulroney or whatever the hell you say his name. So far, it's really good. It's like a unsolved mystery killer, and this kid thinks it's his dad. And so it's all about him trying to figure out and solve the mystery, and his heartbreak and dealing with, if it is him. And I, like I said, haven't seen it all. So that would be another one.
Shudder?
It is on, I found it on iTunes Movie. Okay. And I paid like $4.99 to watch it just because my recollection for that shit is I can either do that or I can go to a fucking movie and drop $40 on food and drink and, a movie. So I'm like, $5. It had pretty good ratings it was in a horror movie category. And I do the whole equation of if it's horror and it's over like a 6 point or something, I give it it's worth a money like drop for me, and I'll pay for it. So
yeah,
that's kind of it. I haven't looked to see if it's anywhere else, but it is on iTunes Movies, which means they're probably pulling it from a cache from somewhere, because that's usually what they do. So it's got to be somewhere else, and it's called The Clove Hitch Killer.
Okay.
So that's all we got, Yardley.
I'm definitely going to take note, though, because I have to watch Apostle as well. That was something that I think Moni and I had brought up before, and I was thinking about going there with it, but I never got around to watching it. So that one's definitely on my list. But there's some very good picks. I mean, 2018, as Christy had mentioned a little while ago, there was a lot more horror that came out than I really realized in 2018 on all formats, movies and television. So there's definitely a breadth of things to choose from, especially going into 2019 to maybe cover some of the things that that might have slid under the radar for us. So let's go ahead and jump into another Blumhouse production, which is Delirium, which was released on Netflix. I think it's a recent release. I think I got an email message about it coming up, or it might have been a result of things you may like, but I had never heard of it until I got the email from Netflix. So I decided to check it out. I thought that it was pretty solid. So the synopsis for this movie is: a man inherits a mansion from his deceased wealthy father after he is released from a mental institution. Strange events lead him to wonder if it's haunted or if it's all in his mind. And some of this movie in this format kind of reminds me, I know that Perfect Blue probably wasn't the first movie to do this. There are definitely others, but I think of Perfect Blue just mainly because of how many times the movie might make you think that something is actually there, and it makes you wonder, is that just in his head because he has a mental issue, or is it not? And of course, that's a part of the plot. Now, Perfect Blue wasn't necessarily dealing with someone who came into the movie with a mental illness issue. This one primarily revolves around that, so it makes it a little bit trickier, but it stars Topher Grace, who was in that 70s show. He also played David Duke in Black Klansman, and Milton Bradley in Christie's favorite Drunk History. So yeah, he has, he has some other movies, but for me, even though I didn't watch that 70s show, I do recognize his face from the commercials. I do watch Drunk History, and I have not yet watched Black Klansman, but I'm going to have to. And in addition to Genesis Rodriguez, she plays in the new series, the She-Ra Princess of Power series, which I think is a Netflix thing too, isn't it?
I I don't know, but I know she's hot.
It is, yeah, and my kid is super into it, so we've already watched all of those episodes.
Oh.
Okay. She plays Perfuma in that. She was Honey Lemon in the Big Hero 6 TV series. And she played a character called Alicia in The Passage, which is another TV series. Now, Patricia Clarkson, she plays Jane Davis in House of Cards. She was also in Shop Objects. She plays Sarah O'Connor in the 6 Feet Under TV series. Have y'all ever watched that?
Did you say 6 Feet Under?
6 Feet Under, yeah.
Only my favorite show of all time.
Really?
Oh, I fucking love 6 Feet Under.
Huh.
Love it.
I never seen the show.
Oh my, are you kidding? Oh, you have to. You have to. Yeah.
I'm going to have to dive into that.
It was, I literally cried when that show ended. I cried. It was that good. It's up there with Game of Thrones for me, for sure.
Oh, well, that's some big company to be in, so that definitely raised my antenna up. Now, Callan Mulvey, he was actually in another Netflix original that was released this year, The Outlaw King with Chris Pine, and he plays John Coleman, the Lord of Badenoch, and Dean from the Power TV series, and there's a TV series called Rush that he was in as well. So they do have people who are we're going to say the big four in this series that have definitely been on some pretty decent shows. And some of these shows are some new up and coming shows that people seem to like. So cast wise, I felt like the cast was pretty decent. So as we get into this review, we'll let the listeners make up their mind whether or not they did a good job in this, but hopefully they'll listen to this and check it out and maybe give us some feedback on the Facebook page. So following a final session with the psychiatrist in which they discuss his father Ephraim's recent suicide, Tom Walker is released from a mental institute. Tom's parole officer, Brody, goes over probation instructions with Tom as he is confined to house arrest in his father's empty mansion. Tom starts questioning his sanity when he begins experiencing haunting visions of his disfigured father, whose corpse was found mauled by Ephraim's pet Doberman. Tom also starts receiving strange phone calls with a groaning voice on the other side. So a delivery woman named Lynn brings groceries to Tom that he ordered from the local market. Tom and Lynn take a mutual interest in one another, of course. Of course, Lynn is smoking, and she's a delivery person. So, I mean, you could kind of see where that was going to go at the beginning. But I will say this, Lynn, as we go on through this, Lynn is kind of a character that if you took her out of this movie, it changes nothing. So
that's true.
I find it kind of interesting that they even felt that they needed that instead of doing a deeper character study, into Tom and, his brother. But
throw in a hot girl, quick.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess you do have to kind of have that element, though. That's kind of a formula in these types of movies. So Tom finds a secret passage that allows someone to spy on various rooms in this mansion. Frightened by his recurring visions, he calls Brody to the house. Brody makes an aggressive sexual advance towards Tom, who rejects her. Angered, Brody confiscates Tom's psychiatric medicine before leaving. Now, this came out of nowhere, y'all, for me.
I thought that was shitty as hell.
She was batshit, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for your probation officer to be putting the smash on you like that, and her punishment to you as someone who needs medication for their mental health, she thought that it was a good idea to take this man's medicine. So I don't, between that being jarring as a person watching it, and then on top of that, like her aggression towards the guy was just, I don't know if that was even necessary. It just seemed kind of weird. Did it come off that way to you, Moni?
Yeah, there were a few things in this movie that were kind of left field, though. It was just like, yeah, I don't know. It's a good movie, and we'll get into obviously our ratings at the end. But I can kind of see why the audience scores are not super duper high, and that movie stuck with me. It genuinely freaked me out a little and at points, but it also just kind of took some weird twists and turns. So.
Yeah, well, was that something that came out of left field for you, Christy, or did you just was there something that you picked up between their interaction in that one scene before that happened?
No, I felt like I was shocked, first of all, that she went over there expecting like a hookup,
Yeah.
And then, as pissed off as she was to not get to be rejected, I understand rejection stings, but yeah, I mean, it was a weird
That was
situation.
weird.
And honestly, when I look at the whole thing as a whole, I don't see the point of it. There's other ways you could have had him his medication like denied, so that there's that question of if
Well,
what he's seeing is real or not. But I don't know. It didn't make a lot of sense to me, but as a whole, it didn't like ruin the movie. It just was weird when I reflect back on it right now. I'm like, why did they
do you
do that?
think that maybe it was to add to kind of the strangeness and kind of tension in the overall movie is like this one authority figure that's supposed to be checking in, making sure that he's not doing anything he shouldn't be doing, making sure that his mental health is okay, is also like just as batshit and aggressive and unpredictable as everything else in his life?
Well, I think one of the reasons why, well, her reasoning behind it, after he rejected her was, she was like, well, why did you call me? And I think it wasn't one of the reasons why he called him something that had to do with his parole. I know if they called there, he had to pick up the phone before the 10th ring, but for her to use, something like that as a rationale to come over there that late, because I think he was having some type of a breakdown and he called her. It was like 2 a.m. or something.
Yeah,
Wasn't
I think it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
more that he was scared or kind
Yeah.
of wanted. He doesn't really have anybody in his life at that point, so.
it? Yeah, and she's like, "Why did you call me?" And it was like, I told you on the phone." But
Yeah, and she knew that he was scared, and she kind of made fun of him about it, but then still went for the whole "you're calling me here to hook up" or weird whatever. It was kind of weird.
yeah, she was she was definitely thirsty. Now, so Tom, while swimming in the mansion's indoor pool, he experiences a flashback of a woman drowning. Tom barely escapes the water as the automated cover inexplicably starts closing. Investigating the pool's cover's control panel afterward, Tom finds a jar containing a severed tongue. So Tom watches a home movie that suddenly cuts the footage of a woman wearing a box padlocked around her head. Tom follows a vision of his father to a bedroom where he discovers a video camera hidden in a mirror. Despite supposedly being in prison, Tom's older brother, Alex, unexpectedly shows up at the house. Alex resumes mentally tormenting Tom, although Tom passes off his brother's presence as an imaginary side effect of being off his medication. So Tom wakes the next day to find the house trashed. So Lynn calls, and Tom convinces Lynn to bring him replacement drugs from her Market's pharmacy, which she does. After finding a sketch that Tom drew of her, Lynn asks Tom to explain his side of the story regarding a teenage girl's murder. So Tom tells her the story, and he recalls how his classmate, Julie DeMarco, rejected him in front of their school when he was 13. Alex, his brother, convinced Tom to help him prank Julie for revenge. Alex ends up restraining Tom and forcing him to watch as he turned violent and drowned Julie, which explains that vision that he had a little bit earlier in the movie. So Alex went on to murder a second woman, but he was eventually caught by police. He goes to prison while Tom was convicted of being an accomplice in the first murder. He was institutionalized on an insanity plea. After he recounts the story to Lynn, she ends up leaving. So a little bit later, Alex reappears, looking for clues regarding the whereabouts of hidden money that could be in the mansion. Alex shows Tom a video recorded by their father before his suicide 5 days earlier. In it, Efren drunkenly apologizes while cryptically referencing how Tom and Alex's mother left them after the verdicts and had disappeared. Following a confrontation between the two brothers, Alex throws Tom in the pool. Tom sees Efren's corpse pulling at his leg, but he manages to escape the water. Alex vanishes again. Now, all of these things that are happening are really freaking him out at this point because he's not on his meds. And I guess as a viewer, did it kind of have you, at least at this point in the movie, were you still on the fence about what he was seeing being real or not? Did that work for you, Christy? Was it kind of freaking you out?
Yeah. Yeah, there was definitely is this real or not real? Is the house haunted? Is this really his brother? Or is he doing all of this? Those were kind of my questions. Where is he creating his brother, and that's not really a brother. It's just like him doing it, if that makes any sense, and he's seeing it as
Yeah.
his brother. Or is the place haunted? Or is everything just completely made up and he's just completely crazy? So those were the three things I was trying to weigh. I didn't want to try to figure it out because sometimes I just like to let movies unfold in front of me instead of sitting there trying to solve the mystery before it unfolds. When we get to the end, there was one thing that I think everybody had already kind of figured out, not to the extent that I had thought, but I knew something was going on with the mother, and we'll talk about that later. But up to this point, yeah, I was kind of wondering, out of the three, I think I was leaning on he was doing it himself and made up his brother in the house. So
Now, Moni, I know you couldn't be fooled, so you were good at this point.
Yeah, this movie. So, full disclosure, I watched it a few weeks ago, so I'm remembering it as you're going through. But I think at this point, I still was kind of like, the brother isn't real. Like, he's not seeing what he thinks he's seeing. I think because the brother is so aggressive when he comes out that, like, in real life, obviously, like, that's not very feasible that someone's going to be that hardcore and aggressive and pop out of nowhere. And then, or, you know, or at least that his perception of his brother was not as aggressive as it was coming off. But yeah, I think at that point I was pretty sure he wasn't real, just because of how he pops out of nowhere, goes super hardcore, and then like disappears. And I'm like, you can't just disappear if you're real. So I don't know. It was weird.
Yeah, I was kind of in that spot myself. So Brody, Tom's probation officer, drops back by unexpectedly. Now, upon seeing the condition of the wrecked house, she assumes that Tom is mentally unstable and then goes back home to retrieve his confiscated pills. So Lynn, the hot Uber Eats driver, she returns, and Tom and Lynn, they actually start kissing and bonding on the same couch that Tom's probation officer tried to sexually assault him on, over a discussion about their troubled past. So after Lynn excuses herself to use the restroom, Tom finally realizes that the things that he thought were hallucinations, such as the tongue in the jar, are actually real. So Tom discovers a secret hatch leading to a hidden chamber underneath the indoor pool. When he goes down, he finds Lynn lying unconscious on the bathroom floor from a wound to her head. Brody enters, assuming Tom to be in the process of assaulting Lynn. The probation officer holds Tom at gunpoint. Alex, his brother, unexpectedly stabs Brody from behind, confirming that Alex had escaped from prison and was not a figment of Tom's imagination. So Tom disconnects the court-mandated phone connection to summon the police to the house. Tom tells his brother that the underground hatch may lead to a hidden vault. While Alex is investigating, Tom tries to rescue Lynn, but Alex, of course, returns to recapture them both. So Alex handcuffs Tom and forces him to watch as he prepares to kill Lynn, which is similar to what he did when he killed Julie DeMarco. Tom ends up breaking free to fight his brother, but Alex throws him down the hatch. When he gets to the bottom of the hatch, Tom uncovers a dungeon-like bedroom with a direct line to the upstairs phone. Tom also finds a disheveled woman chained up in the room. Tom realizes that his father had tortured and imprisoned his mother all those years, and the phone calls that he was receiving were her trying to speak with a missing tongue, which is pretty sad. Actually, the makeup that they did on the mother was outstanding. Tom ends up freeing his mother. Alex brings Lynn into the underground chamber for a confrontation with Tom. Alex unexpectedly shoots his mother in the stomach. I don't even know about unexpectedly. Didn't that seem like he was like, I don't really get that.
Expected outcome there.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
he did it pretty much on purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. But so he ends up shooting her in the stomach. He then forces Tom to open their father's safe by threatening to shoot Lynn. Another fight ends up breaking out between the brothers. Wild gunshots going everywhere. They damage the pipes and ceiling, causing the chamber to begin flooding with swimming pool water. Tom and Lynn race to the ladder as the water level rises. Tom kicks Alex down into the water. Tom and Lynn end up escaping, and they close the hatch while Tom's dying mother pulls Alex underwater with herself to drown. As Tom and Lynn exit the house, that's when the police arrive, and that's where the movie ended. I'm kind of sad, and then I'm going to, of course, get both of your thoughts on the film, but I wanted a little bit more time for Tom to have kind of had that moment, with his mother, because all of these things kind of escalated. Yeah, it escalated pretty quick, and I almost feel like Alex getting drowned. And granted, once once our listeners end up watching the movie, it just seems like you almost feel like, I don't know. As short a time as Alex was in this movie, I still felt like he had to go out worse than the way that he went out, because a lot of the stuff that he was doing, one, congratulations, he actually managed to, escape the penitentiary. However, to escape the penitentiary and to torment your brother who has a mental issue mainly because of you, I thought that he deserved a little bit more of a gruesome way to go out. But I, like both of you, I was pretty surprised about the twist at the end with the mother. And it's pretty sad that the mother, went through all that. But I'm wondering, was there any indication that I might have missed? I'm just wondering, how over the last 5 days, I guess she was just asked out with eating or doing any of those things. And who was... Because I think the father had died 5 days before Tom had got out. So she went a little bit of time without food and water. And it was pretty sad that she was tortured all those years. So I definitely have to give her, my queasy sympathy, and it's sad that she went through all that and then still ended up dying at the hand of one of her kids. So it's pretty sad.
Yeah, this movie, it was surprising. And now that you're mentioning about Lynn, earlier you said, we had to throw in the hot girl and whatever else. I think the only reason she's in this movie is to exist for oh no, Alex is going to shoot her. Oh no, this is going to happen to her. She's the damsel in distress, essentially, that they needed. But the pool gag got me every time. I enjoyed that as far as when it was closing on him, and then when the mom comes out from under there, and there's a lot of cool stuff about the pool. But yeah, it kind of is a little bit of a slow burn in the beginning, and then all of a sudden just was everything in
Crazy
the kitchen
town.
sink. There's a brother, and there's a dad that was a killer, and then there's it's wow.
Do y'all think it would have worked the same had if Lynn wasn't in it and he had Tom watch himself threatened to kill their mother? I think that probably would have still had the same effect as Lynn, except, of course, that's the mother and not a friend like Julie DeMarco.
Well,
but
I think they used Lynn as because he never stood up to his brother. He was always kind of cowering and wouldn't fight back. And Lynn seemed to be at the end the catalyst to him to finally stand up to his brother and fight back. And because his brother was about to kill her again, repeating the history that had caused all of this in the first place. So I think that's the only reason Lynn was there, and she was really hot. So I was totally fine with her presence. I love pretty girls, and she was hot. So totally eye candy for me. Enjoy it. Girls, that's what's so great about girls. We can totally admit when a girl's hot, and nobody gives us any side eyes because we just know, they're hot.
No homo, bro.
I'd like to motorboat that all day. So anyway, but I think that was kind of what she was there for, was that final, I'm not going to let you do this again. It was that point in the movie that all that shit was about to go down again, and he didn't want to relive that.
I can appreciate this movie because one of the things that it kind of reinforces, and you can take this tact as far as watching a movie or a TV show or in real life, sometimes the most dangerous place that you can live is in your own head. So I thought that this is one of the things that made this movie pretty dope, is the fact that they force you into not knowing what the hell is going on, along with Tom, from the point where the probation officer takes the meds. And I thought that was, I always like that because, if you're a good movie, you're going to be able to sew up that situation pretty well towards the end. And I thought that the movie at least worked on this front. Now, I'm never a a fan of endings like this where they run out and then the police show up and you don't really know. You don't even get a few minutes of what happens next. But you know, it didn't tank it for me. But this movie actually surprised me. And to be honest with you, I think that 2019, especially as far as what Netflix is concerned, I think that they're just going to keep on rolling downhill. You know, they're going to put out some stuff that's not going to be all that, but then at the same time there's going to be some stuff that's going to get on there that are pleasant surprises. So I would definitely file this under pleasant surprise. So y'all want to do the ratings, or do you have anything else you want to bring up about the movie?
Well, I'll just say that with the mom, I thought the dad killed her. When I look back after the movie, I saw that, you know, he opened that cupboard and there was all those soup cans in the cupboard. So apparently that's what she'd been living on all this time. So I'm assuming some of those cans were in her room, which is how she ended up making it through. Trying to figure out why it was covered in water. That's disgusting. I guess there was a small pool leak. It had been building up. And then, of course, what happened after that, you know, completely collapsed it. But so I totally blown away when you see. But as soon as when I saw it, I knew, oh my God, his mother's in there. But that was totally not expected. I was like,
you
whoa.
want me to tell you something else that kind of got me that I figured would be scary as shit is to like be in a pool, an indoor pool like that, and then it's starting to close on top of you and you have to like beat it before it closes. I think that would be pretty terrifying. So that, of all of the things that happened in the movie, I think that the notion of just being, you know, shut off in one of those pools would just be horrendous. So were there any highlights? Like what got you the most in this movie? Did you have any lowlights or highlights, Moni?
Let's see. Highlights, like I mentioned, the pool, especially when it first started closing on him, was kind of interesting. I think the whole tone of it was pretty kind of psycho with the mom, but like meets, I almost want to say Hill House, and it's just because it's so much family drama too, and unexplained human behavior. It's not nearly as good or as like in depth or meaty as that, but just where it kind of goes wonkers at the end, where they're like throw everything in the kitchen sink at it. But other than that, I liked it. If we're doing ratings, the 3 2/5, that's such a random number, the audience score. I would say 3 3/4, almost a 4 out of 5.
Okay. What you got, Chrissy? How would you rate this one?
I'd give it a 3.25. It wasn't like, it was good. I love Topher Grace, so that makes me happy. And I like Patricia Clarkson, or whatever the hell her name. What is her name? Is that right?
Oh, the
one
agent
from,
or whatever.
yeah,
her
from
probation.
6 Feet Under. Love her. Patricia Clarkson. Love her. I've seen her in other things. She's really good. House of Cards. Definitely love her in House of Cards as well. She plays a badass. The concept was there. It was a little, up until the end, it just didn't have a lot of strength for me. I wasn't really into it until the very end. So it might have been my own fault. I've been kind of on the brink of getting sick, then got sick, then wasn't sick, was in a lot of cold medication. So it could have just been me not able to like mentally check into the movie. But it was good. It just wasn't like, when I compare it to all the other movies I've seen this year, now that we've done that, I can't give it as high a rating because of all the other great movies we've been talking about. It's hard.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'd probably rate it about the same. And you know what? For what it was worth, it did kind of drag, in the beginning. I think that they probably could have done more if they would have just focused on him, seeing other things, making it even weirder that he wasn't on his meds. But I would agree. I'd probably give it a 3.25 as well. And to actually follow up on something that we just talked about a show or two ago, the Gypsy Rose thing. Did y'all see that? I think it's on ABC. They're doing a special on that case. It's like,
oh no, I didn't see that.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah, it might be coming up. I want to say it's coming up this weekend or early next week, but just Google Gypsy Rose. I think it's on ABC News, but it's like it has to be at least an hour. So I think it would be interesting to kind of watch and see how they talk about it. And the interviews, they're actually walking around the prison with her, talking about the thing. And, so it's a real great interview that they're actually going to focus on just her angle. Now, I really do hope that they give us a little on the young man that was involved in that incident with her, because I do think that, you know what? I didn't even find out what his sentence was. Did y'all find that out? Or
yeah, didn't he get life? I think that was part of our discussion. Was that
no, he was in trial. He was in trial.
Yeah, he was in trial.
Okay. Yeah,
I thought he had a higher sentence than her. Oh, and he had harder core charges than she did. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think all of us had agreed. I mean, I was like, I don't think that he should have been punished any more harshly than she was. But it'd be interesting to see.
John. Do we remember? And I don't know if I'm spelling it right either.
Yeah.
Go to John. Yeah.
I haven't looked it up. We can check and see, but no, I think like a week or two after our show, I did kind of check in to see, and it was just his trial was still going on. So then kind of forgot about it. So that would be an interesting follow up, and we should do a follow up with that story after do you know when the ABC show is airing?
Yeah, I didn't write it down. I literally saw the commercial for it like 2 days ago. So that's how I'm aware that it's happening. But I'll find out. And actually, we definitely need to post this on the Facebook page so everybody can look at it as well. Because to be honest, of all the stuff that we talked about, that story was actually one of the most interesting, to me, when crushes go wrong, I guess. But I actually was kind of drawn to that, and I'll definitely make a point to check it out, and we can follow up again. But
I have an answer for you. It's 2020, Gypsy's Truth and Lies, and it airs January 5th. And I will put the 10-minute clip from it onto our... Oh, wait.
Okay.
January 5th, 2018. Never mind. I don't have an answer for you. I am incorrect.
You're right. You're behind, lady.
However, if you would like to watch this, is it really ABC for sure?
I mean, it's on. I think it has to be ABC. I think I was watching something else, and all I remember was seeing the commercial for it coming up, and I was like, "Oh snap!" We just talked about about that on the podcast not too long ago.
There's one where she speaks out from prison on ABC, but it was January 5th of this year, and everything else is coming up Mommy, Dad, and Dearest. So I'm not sure.
Well, I'll find it, because I know that wasn't the liquor. Like I know. I know that I saw that fucking commercial. And
I can't imagine you making up a Gypsy Rose show while on liquor. That would be pretty random.
Yeah, so I don't think that the Terraconal does that type of damage. But
if so, hand me over some of that. I want to try it.
I think a lot of the reason why this is coming up now too is that Go to John guy that we mentioned. His trial just started last month. So that's probably stirring it up.
Which is crazy, because when I decided to do that show was not anything. It just was in my head, and I had thought about it. And then it was weird when I started doing research, and I was like, holy shit. And there's some news on it right there. So that's kind of interesting that it all happened at the same time. We always have some good timing there. But we'll do some updates on it as we go. Maybe as the shit starts rolling in from his trial, and then this special that airs gonna air at some point. So we'll look further into it. And
I just figured I would put that out in the ether. It's interesting because life gets in the way. Because when I saw the preview for it, I think my intention was to write it down. I never wrote it down. Then I thought about it actually right before the show. Of course, didn't search for anything. But whenever I find that, I'm definitely going to get it up. So that'll be something that'll be kind of cool to jump the New Year's off as kind of tracking this situation. Now, I don't think that we've discussed holiday-wise. Are we going to do a show?
Yeah, I'll talk to you guys about it off the show. I don't know yet, because I also wanted to talk about, because next show is mine, and talk about all that. So we'll do like an announcement, I think, if that's okay with you guys, after we
We could
figure
get
all that
drunk on
shit out.
eggnog and hide from our families and do a show. Oh, sorry, much important.
Yeah.
Such wow. We are big podcasters now.
Hey,
Gotta
happy
go.
y'all are here. Got a job to do. Okay, take care now. Bye
Here's
bye.
your present. Bye.
Give me an hour of fucking peace. I mean, I will be in Chicago next Saturday through New Year's. So we either need to do it right before, or we'll just wait until after. We can just talk about it when we get off. What everybody can do, but
Well, we do have 2 episodes in the can for our creepers.
we do. We just have to get them posted now. Now I know how. Yay, me!
We do have some content to put out there.
We'll
Yes,
definitely.
yay, Christy. She's a baller.
I'll drop this last week's episode, or this whatever, today, and I can span this one out to next week if we all want. It's up to you, or I can do them in a couple of days. We're way behind, so I was going to do them a couple of days apart. And then if we can do a show before I leave, we could do that, and I can drop that one over Christmas holiday, because people are traveling and do want to tune out and not listen to their family, so they do play podcasts. And we're behind, so that's why I was like, you know what, I'll talk to you guys about it, and we can go from there. But
okay, well, we'll run these negotiations behind the camera, unlike some things that happen in the real world here. But we'll definitely have a lot of content out for everybody. And you know what? All in all, I think 2018 was a pretty decent year for horror movies.
Horror, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I'm kind of surprised on that. But I think I honestly believe that it pretty much gave a lot of people courage because of its success to kind of dip their toe into things that were once familiar and kind of updating them for the now. Mm-hmm. So, and plus when you've got, do y'all even really consider Quiet Place a horror movie? Because I really don't.
I do.
You do?
But there's so many genres of horror that I think it fits in.
Well, I just think that it's a time now where these horror movies are having fairly low budgets, but then the payback that they're getting, like A Quiet Place made just a way more money than I think that they could have possibly imagined. And even the Halloween movie, which I thought was just all right, way more than they could have dreamed of. So I think that people are just saying, hey, if you can come up with something pretty decent, but keep the costs down. Now, I don't want people to get to the point where they're really trying to keep prices so low because they just really want to just rely on, having a gut feeling that they're going to be churning something out to make a ton of money. Yeah. I do want people to invest in what they're doing. At the same time, even with Get Out and all of these other movies, it is shown that if you do have the quality writing, that, you can get money back hand over fist. So I'm glad that a lot of people are using this opportunity to take chances, and hopefully in 2019 or 2020, we'll get a lot more great horror.
I agree. I think for a while, horror was kind of a joke genre for a long time. 70s, 80s, there was a few really ones, like The Exorcist or Rosemary's Baby. 50s and 60s with Hitchcock, it was a big deal and people took it seriously. Then it kind of took a dive. And then the 90s horror kind of disappeared a little bit. And then now it's really making a huge comeback. And I hope it doesn't go back into that, we're just going to post a bunch of stupid shit just to get your money. That, like you said, they still will put thought into it and make good quality horror. As every generation passes, you get new and newer concepts and abilities to do different things. You couldn't have pulled off all the technology-based horror that now, of course, because that shit didn't exist 20 years ago. So there's the ability to have better effects and better concepts. So I'm hoping that the trend continues, and it's great that there's the ability for these indie people to have the spotlight too. We're in a situation now where, kind of like musicians, you can be famous without getting that huge, budget deal from a production company. So
yeah,
I always like to give them a chance too.
I don't want to put y'all on the spot because I probably should have put this in the show notes as well. But going into 2019 or 2020, are there any movies that are in pre-production that you're looking forward to coming up in the next year or so? For me, my number one as of right now, and this could totally change in a couple of months as we get more information on new movies, but I'm going to say Chucky. I
Yeah,
am
yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, I am pretty hyped up to see what they're going to do with this. And I think part of it is the petty part of me where, people who had an opportunity to be involved don't want to be involved.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where I'm kind of rooting for it to,
I have some. I have a couple. Yeah, I'm excited about Chucky. I really am now. It's been built. The first time I was like, whatever, when we had talked about it before. But then when you shared the poster, I was like, okay, that's pretty fucking creepy. And then when you showed the marketing page that they've got, it made me excited. It seems like they're putting an effort into it, which I appreciate. So I am now excited about it. I'm excited about Happy Death Day Part 2 because I loved that movie, and I'm like,
that's right. We forgot to mention that for this. That was amazing.
Was that this year or last year? I can't remember, but
I watched it this year, so it counts.
Okay, I really loved that movie. I thought it was great. I was very impressed, and I actually just watched it the other day again. I loved it. The Curse of La Llorona, or whatever it's called. After Moni talked about that, I think it was, or was it you, Yardley? I'm excited about that one.
That's right.
And here's the one. So if anybody has movies that they go to, like they're just their movie that they go to when nothing's on and you still want to watch a movie, Zombieland is the one for me. That's the one I watch. That one or Warm Bodies, I love. Zombieland 2 is coming out next year, so I am hoping and praying it's another good one and that I'll enjoy it. So those are the ones that kind of stick out to me on top of Chucky. Also, World War Z Part 2. Not sure how they're going to pull that off, but I'm interested in watching it and giving it a shot.
Was good.
Yeah. I just was thinking of the concept of how they would sequel that. And I don't know is there a sequel in the book? Does anybody know?
I don't know.
Yeah. So
I don't know either.
I'm interested in giving it a shot.
No, I'm sorry. The book doesn't have a sequel, but they didn't really follow the source material of the book. The book was a variety of short stories.
Oh, okay.
So they could potentially just completely start from the beginning when the outbreak occurs and have a different whole set of stories.
Now, I am excited for this, and this is something I didn't get an opportunity to go into theaters to watch, but by default, I know when this comes out on digital or Blu-ray, it's going to be Overlord. I have to own it, and it was one of those that I kind of, I had the intention on going, never got around to it, but I'm pretty sure, which is another blessing that we have living in this day and age, hey, you're going to get a movie on Blu-ray within probably 60 days of it coming out. Now,
I think they didn't go, first of all, they didn't market it very well as far as I'm concerned. I wanted to see it, and then I forgot about it, and then I don't think it was released at a good time. I just don't think it was, the hype was there. I tried to rent it last night, hoping maybe it might be available. It's not going to be available, I think, until later.
$20, you got to buy it. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not even ready, and it's a pre-order. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of like, When I was looking at movies last night, I really want to see it, and I think it's going to be really good. And from what the reviews I've seen they loved it.
Well,
so
I think that this is one of those movies because I don't think that the budget, for what the budget that they had, they did a really good job. But I don't think, just like you were saying, they didn't market it a lot, but I don't think that their intention was to make all that bank in the theater. I think that they know that they're going to make that bank in Blu-ray and DVD.
Yeah.
This is one of those movies that I've heard a lot of people say is going to be one of those movies that's going to be even more appreciated in years to come. Yeah.
Nice.
And to be honest, the clips, I have watched a few clips from it, and it looks solid. I mean, it's almost like a B movie. I mean, intentionally, they want it to kind of be like a B movie, but it's just got more money behind it. And I hear that everybody does a great job. And one of the main, antagonists in this movie is the guy who plays Euron Greyjoy in Game of Thrones.
Ooh, I love him.
Yeah, I forgot his name off the top of my head, but I'm a real fan of him on that show. So, we'll see what comes out of that.
Cool.
My anticipated It Chapter 2 is going to drop in
That's
2019.
right.
Of course,
Oh,
we
my
got to be
God.
excited about
You
that.
mean Jessica Chastain
Yeah.
and the
Oh,
clown?
no. Don't get
My
Yardley
God.
started.
I'm glad you're
um,
dogging it because when she turns out to be good, you're going to be happy. And
well,
then
when the
if
rest of the movie turns out to be good despite her is
yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
going for.
I think I like her. I don't think this is a bad thing. I would have rather had Amy Adams. I get it.
Yeah.
But I think Jessica Chastain, maybe this is something that she's trying to prove she's not one of these like serious drama actresses and can actually do
Well,
something
she
a
got
little
the
different.
hookup, but she basically got the hookup to get the gig, though. It
Yeah.
wasn't like it's a, you know what I mean? It's
But she's
just
still
for
got to have
sure.
some sort of talent there. They're not going to just post,
Do you? I
Yeah.
think I mean
And this kind of
I
a movie,
totally.
visibility, this is a
I
big
am sorry I
movie.
brought this
Here's
up.
the thing. Here's the thing. I don't think like God. I totally see Jessica Chastain like going in there and then trying to make the movie about Beverly Marsh, and I thought that the way that oh my God, I just I'm gonna go watch.
Tell us
I,
how you really feel, Yardley.
I sent y'all that video of Grace Randolph and like Oliver Jackson, and
That
I
was pretty funny.
I know.
Moving
God,
forward,
that's
happy
hysterical.
Death Day to you. I don't know
Yeah.
if it's going to be any good because I don't know if they're going to go to the well again because the
Yeah.
original had such a great concept that I'd never seen before. And
Yeah.
the second one looks like they're beating a dead horse. But we'll see. And then actually, you all know my true crime. It's not going to be a horror, but the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the Tarantino film about the Manson, the Sharon Tate's life
Oh,
and
yeah.
murder.
Yep.
Y'all know I'm into the whole Manson family thing. Not necessarily a horror either, but I love me a monster film. How awesome does the new Godzilla look to you guys? Have you seen the
I haven't
trailer?
seen that
Godzilla
one.
King of Monsters.
Is that next
Oh, yeah.
year?
God.
absolutely.
Yes.
Oh, I love
It's
Godzilla.
just gonna be popcorn, but it
Yeah.
looks super,
Oh,
super fun.
I watched that Godzilla with Matthew Broderick all the time. I love that movie. I thought they did awesome. Some people hated it. I freaking loved it.
But
I
this
just like
one,
watching monsters.
yeah, this one you get Godzilla and three other monsters.
Yes,
Perfect.
finally, we're gonna see
I mean-
that in the modern era.
But three other monsters that Godzilla would normally be going up against individually, it appears that in this movie, all of the monsters are going to have to team up to go after, another monster. So I'm all about that. I mean,
Awesome.
as far as I'm concerned, I don't even care that what's her name, Millie Bobby Brown or
Uh-huh.
whatever.
Yeah,
I don't even care if she's in the movie because I'm not going to see
Still playing
Millie Bobby
11 in this
Brown
movie
be adorable. I'm going to see the monster.
Yeah, I don't think anybody is. They could have casted that role in with anybody. I mean,
They
really.
could have put Jessica
Not-
Chastain, and I
not-
still would have
yeah.
watched it.
Uh-oh, don't go there with Yardley.
Like if Rodan is going to swoop down and smash her, whatever. But
Yardley would have been out there picketing it. No Chastain. No Chastain.
It's funny because y'all couldn't admit because it was the time when I told y'all in the thread when I was at work. I had just finished talking shit about Jessica Chastain, and then she was outside my window at work.
Oh, that's right. She
Remember-
heard
You're
you.
Jessica Chastain, get out of here. Everybody
I
else
was
is like, can I get your
I-
autograph? And you're like, no, get security.
But good. That's something that I'm definitely looking forward to, Moni.
Monsters.
Awesome.
Yes.
I'd like to
So-
do one quick little shout out if we're done talking about movies. Are we done?
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to give a shout out to Chris on Total Nerd Takeover. He sat with me, this podcast illiterate working person who had basically band-aided a podcast together for the first year. Decided to, my band-aids ran out, shit was crashing all around me, and Yardley referred me to Chris, and he has spent hours, I don't even know the total of hours, 4 hours last night alone, sitting down with me, telling me the exact things I need to order, helping me out with costs, trying to figure out, the most budget-friendly way to get a legit podcast studio going. And then once I got all the pieces in, sat down with me last night, and I got him on Facebook video, and he worked me through every single wire, connection, dial, volumes, everything, and then sat down and walked me through our recording software and how to work every individual piece in and the frequencies and the everything. It was amazing. He did a fantastic job. And after all of that, he did sit down with me and tell me that that's his passion, and that's something he's going to start next year, is a series of helping podcasters do the right connections without charging like a crazy amount of money, which is in a lot of need. I've searched and searched online before I finally went to him for help. And so you can find him if you'd also like to look up his other like gadget reviews and stuff he does. He also is in the Game of Thrones podcast with Yardley at Total Nerd Takeover on different social medias and on his website, Total Nerd Takeover.
Yep, and at TNerdT on or is one of his
Twitter.
handles on Twitter as well, and the Game of Thrones podcast is at Behind the Iron. So we definitely get things jacked up during the season. So check us out when the new season starts back.
And you guys do like a live podcast, don't you? With that, do you do that live, or is that another one?
Well, we record. We generally record it not live, but we record it like about a half hour after the episode airs.
The episode. Okay,
and then it goes up. But that's indie radio where we do everything live.
I gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So I just had to give him a shout out. He was awesome. Super nice guy. Very passionate about what he does. And you can tell it's there. So if you're interested in looking at all his stuff, he has a ton of stuff that he reviews, talks about. He's written a book. You can find him, like Yardley said, at TNerdT on Twitter, and or if you just Google Total Nerd Takeover, you can see all his shit. And so gotta give him a shout out and thank him so much. I hope I can help him in the future and repay his kindness. That's the plan. So anyway, I offered all my services of marketing to him when he's ready, and he's taking me up on the offer when he's ready. So again, thank you, Chris. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I'll have to check him out. And thanks to him for saving our show.
Well, I actually talked to him a couple of nights ago, and I did tell him, I was like, yo, if you want to jump on a show and talk some horror with us, you can. So he's definitely got his antennas up on that. So hopefully if we can find something dope. Actually, I'm pretty sure that he's the type of person who will probably end up buying Overlord as well. Yeah. So once we hit that up, I'll see if I can get Chris on and we'll all talk about it.
Yeah. Nice. And he's got the great podcasting voice and everything. Unlike me, I have a weird whiny voice, but that's okay. I still make it work. He's like, here, let me help you on those levels for the your voice. I was like, yeah, I know, I get it. It's crappy.
Maybe
whatever.
You can take my lisp out while we're at it too, and really be professionals here.
I think it's funny though. He's like, oh, Mr. Professional, and he's got a studio with like soundproofing, and he's like, can you hear me? And I've got this, and do you there? And I was like, and then here's me with my shoddy ass shit, set up over here in my office of my house. So,
but Christy, you can only do what you can do, and you know what? All we can all do is strive to get better audio, provide better content, and with a new year, I think it provides better opportunities for us to hit the ground running. And once again, Chris, good looking. We're definitely gonna holler at you next year. And as far as both of you are concerned, it's definitely been a pleasure. And I know that this isn't our last show before the new year, but it's definitely been a pleasure to be able to do this show and to kind of open up my horror, viewing repertoire there. So I'm really happy because a lot of these movies or shows that I've watched might not have been things that I would have considered as much had it not been for being on this podcast. So, I mean, I actually might just go ahead and break down and get Shudder just so I can just wreck my brain with all of these.
You're never going to leave your house. You're going to call in sick.
Yeah, so you know what? I might go ahead and do that, but I definitely have to say that I appreciate, my mind kind of being expanded because, as you're right, the horror genre has a lot of people interpret different movies in different ways as far as the horror genre is concerned. So, I personally, I know y'all don't like it. I do tend to see that there's a lot of great horror, but you're just going to have to read subtitles as well for some of these.
That's what I was going to say. You got me into watching the subtitle stuff because I wouldn't do it before.
Yeah, that's one of those things that we definitely we shouldn't poo-poo off like foreign films or foreign language films because
Yeah.
some of their content, to be honest, is better than a lot of the commercialized stuff that we get. So,
Yeah. Well,
Creepers, just look forward to 2019 being a reading, uh, a reading
absolutely.
year as well.
Reading. We don't do none of that around these library parts.
Nuh-uh. Yeah, I mean, Terrified's a great example of that. I mean, Terrified, and I have a feeling, Yardley, it might be one of your top movies too, just based on stuff that you like, is on the top, of Moni and I's list. And it is, it's from, I think, Argentina or something. So definitely glad that we go through and give those movies a chance because I never did that in the past. I think the first time was Train to Busan, which is when I was like, when you told me I had to watch that one, and it was
so
great. And so then I was like, okay, so then Perfect Blue, okay, really good. All right, then Raw, again, really good. So I've learned that you're right. That doesn't, we can expand our horror bubble into other countries and fucking put your phone down, don't multitask, and that's the best part about those movies is you have to put your phone down, you have to only be doing that, you can't concentrate on something else, and you truly dive into the movie and the story that way. Whereas sometimes I'm guilty of picking up my phone, doing text while movies are playing, and I'm not truly engaged in the movie like I should be.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Now, oh, well, something else to kind of add to that too is like those types of movies are the types of movies that if you have to do something else, just pause it. Don't assume that when you come back, you didn't miss much because chances are, whenever you decide to go, refill your alcohol or go to the bathroom, that's the part that you should have read while you were
especially
gone.
in horror. Yeah,
and you're confused. Yeah,
absolutely. Now. Go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say that I like you, Yardley. I love doing this podcast. Never in my wildest dreams did I think it would reach the audience that it's reaching right now. Never intended for this to be my full-time job. It's never going to be my full-time job. But I'm truly thankful that as we round out another year, a year of being together, but we started in 2017, so we're ending another year together here, and I just wanted to thank everybody for their support, and hopefully, as we grow, better sound, even, better content, that they stick with us, and I appreciate them sticking with us, even when, shit was bad quality, and or I was a zombie or drunk or all the other shit that we've played out on this show. But I do want to thank everybody and you two for the ride. And I'm excited of what next year brings us.
Yes, thank to all the creepers and thanks to you guys because teamwork makes the dream work.
Right.
And we want everyone to have, whether you hear from us or not, whether we record or not, have wonderful holidays and don't set any microwaves on fire or set your house on fire. Just don't take my example because we want you guys to be safe and having fun.
All right. Well, with all that being said, we'll do this again very soon. I actually really did enjoy doing this episode, and we need to do more best of type things, in the future. But with all that being said, creepers, if you happen to, if this is the last podcast you happen to listen to until after the New Year's, hey, be safe. Just keep on keeping on, listen in, and we'll definitely have little tidbits on the Facebook page, and we're definitely going to keep these shows coming. So hopefully we'll have another episode up, and that would be, gosh, we're about to drop 2 back to back, so there's a possibility that you might even get 3 over the next 10 days. So that's what's up.
You're welcome.
We got to make up for our disappearance for a little while. While I got our shit straight.
No, we're giving them the gift of us this holiday season.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely. And with all that being said, you know what? Creep it real. Do y'all have anything to add, or should we close this puppy out?
No.
Good.
Close this out.
All right, creepers. Talk to you later.
Feeling the stinging cold fall. Hands in my pockets as I stare at the ground. Still nobody can see me as I look around. Where do I come from? Where do I go? Can somebody tell me, for I don't know. I am the answer to the question that nobody has asked. I try to look at today, but all I see is the past. And now we try to run away as fast as we can, 'cause the world sees us as a threat to their plans. And any time we have left is gonna weigh on my head.